Welcome to part 2 of working with allied health professionals. So in my last video I spoke about working with an occupational therapist. How about working with a speech pathologist? What do they do? So a speech pathologist doesn't just work on speech, although that's something they do work on really heavily, particularly with children in the early years. If you've got a child in kindy or prep that is really struggling to pronounce some of those sounds, that's a really good time to get in and to make sure they develop those sounds. So as an adult they speak correctly, and it's intervened while it's at an early age before those habits get really badly ingrained. So speech therapists can work with children of all ages. They work with adults as well, and they might work with an adult perhaps who has had a stroke, who needs to relearn how to speak. They might work with a teacher who's lost their voice because they've spoken too much and raised their voice too much and damaged their voice. But for children they can work on putting sounds together to make words. They can look at putting words together to make sentences, and then putting sentences together to make coherent paragraphs and coherent conversation. And they're really important skills because language development comes before reading. And if the language development hasn't happened as it should have done, then that will impact on spelling. So for example, and reading. For example, your child says fin with F-I-N, and they actually wanted to say thin, T-H-I-N. But if they haven't learnt how to say those sounds correctly, they're going to write F-I-N every time they see and write about something that was thin, which is obviously impacting their spelling just because of their speech. And also if they don't construct sentences correctly, then that's what they're going to write. They're going to write that incorrectly formed sentence because that's how they form it orally. So the speech language pathologist will do a number of different assessments. They will look at the speech, they will look at the sounds that children use and how they put those things together, and particularly different concepts in vocabulary that they understand or don't understand. So for example, do they understand before and after? So if you say to a child, after you go and put your shoes away, can you go and pack your school bag? If they don't understand the concept of after, they're going to be really lost with that instruction. So other things they can work on social skills, how to speak in certain situations, what to say in certain situations, how to start a conversation, how to start play, for example. And a child who doesn't have those skills may really struggle. I had a student a few years ago who, when he wanted to play ball with somebody, would throw a ball at them. Now, to other child, they just thought they were being mean and throwing a ball at me. Well, that wasn't the intended communication, but without that verbal communication, the child wasn't able to say, can we play ball? And that was a really tricky one, and we had to teach him those phrases to use to say, can you come and play with me? Can I come and play with you? So they're really important things we need to teach. So speech pathologist has a range of things. They can also help with some of the early literacy development, particularly phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, being able to hear the sounds in words and the chunks of words. So without those skills, often children with literacy difficulties, that's their downfall, that's the bit that's missing. And something, as me as a specialist teacher as well, is something I make sure I include in all my literacy lessons to make sure we're picking up those skills to help them move forwards. So again, like the OT, talk to your GP. They will be able to help you with the referral to speech pathologist. Your school may have a speech pathologist who works on site or who have good relationships with. Again, just like the OT, start work early and it will benefit in the long run. And for many children, they have speech in the early years of school to get those speech sounds corrected and catch up the language, and then they often are fine after that. And it is really a very successful way to help your child in the early years. And if you're not sure what's happening for your child, a speech pathologist like the OT can provide assessment and information to feed on to a paediatrician who will be able to then feed into their diagnostic process and help to identify what the underlying problems are. Because sometimes it takes more than one person's information to find out what's truly going on. Some children are quite complex and we need information from lots of different people. So I hope that's helped. Next time I'm going to talk about what the psychologist can do to help.